Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Wild Moments, brought to you by explorer.org. Good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for joining us. And especially thank you to Taylor. Hi.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a while.
Absolute pleasure. Yes, thanks for joining us. It's lovely to have you back. So we're live and interactive this afternoon. Remember, you can send through your questions on any of the platforms that you're using. We'd love to hear from everyone out there, find out what you're up to. So here we got Aussie Jan, coffee time, and a good afternoon to all. Hello, Aussie Jan. Welcome, welcome. So the theme for this afternoon is those cheeky chappies, the jackals, those cheeky canines that get in everywhere. Always great fun to watch. And I think we've got some fantastic clips for you all to watch today. Amber CEO, happy Thursday to you all here. Taylor and Kelly for being guides today. It's our pleasure. I've got a very basic knowledge of jackals, so really looking forward to this show. Fingers crossed we might be able to help you out there. Zygo, hi Taylor and Kelly. Hello, good afternoon.
Good.
Rolling Trouble, hello from Washington. Coffee and water here for the show. Wow, 2 drinks on the go. I've also got my nice cup of coffee here.
And I have a glass of nothing.
Glass of nothing. So I think if we have a look at this first clip, it's quite an interesting one. And I'd love to hear feedback from you guys out there that are watching. So I think let's roll that first clip. Oh, that's a very strange movement that jackal's doing, hey?
Yeah, it doesn't look very well at all.
No, it looks quite thin. See, it does worry me when I see animals like this, but I'm not a vet. But I think both Taylor and myself, we've got a good idea of what is normal behavior. And that doesn't look normal to me, hey Taylor?
No, not at all. I mean, that distended sort of movement it's doing sort of with its back legs, I suppose. And look how wobbly it looks. It doesn't look very stable at all. Oh, no. I don't, yeah, I've actually never seen anything like this specifically.
No, I haven't. I think there was some mention, there was some talk of possibly people thinking maybe this jackal might have distemper. I'm not sure who would have made that call. I wouldn't have made any call like that. I would have reported it and got someone to look. And I think they have got someone from the area that are keeping an eye on this jackal. I'm not quite sure what the outcome is, but I think the most important thing in this situation is that someone is made aware.
It looks like this jackal's in a lot of pain. Almost as if, its stomach is like contracting, like it's got severe cramps or something. I don't know. That's so crazy, but they definitely seem. Oh no, that's really, really unusual. And I hope they do keep an eye on it, because you and I both know how severe canine distemper is, and the knock-on effect that it can have to other animals, well, other members from the Canidae family specifically in that area.
No, absolutely, and it can be spread through all carnivores, and it's another sad fact that sometimes people think of human wildlife conflict as feeding areas or poaching or that sort of thing, but this can also be a knock-on effect of domestic dogs having an impact like this on wildlife. It's very sad.
No, absolutely. We see that, unfortunately, for those of you that have been to the Sabi Sand area or any areas where there are a lot of communities surrounding these wilderness areas. We quite often see canine distemper going through, and particularly detrimental to the populations of wild dogs. It wasn't too long ago when a pack of wild dogs in the Kruger National Park was completely wiped out. I think there were like 30 or something of them. Please don't, it was in the high 20s, and that whole pack just went out within a couple of days, which is very sad.
I was also reading earlier, I think there was a case in the 90s. I think it was the Serengeti. It wiped out a third of the lion population. I'm sure it was the Serengeti in the mid-90s, and again there were domestic dogs implicated on that. So let's just hope that someone is keeping an eye on that, and someone's I'm sure a vet will be called though.
Absolutely.
So who else have we got this afternoon? Jasmine 57, hi Taylor and Kelly. Arizona going to 104 today. That's
Oh,
pretty warm. Do jackal bury food for later? I think they do. They've been known to do it. I've never actually seen a jackal doing it. Have you seen a jackal burying food, Taylor?
no, I think they only do it when there's like a surplus of food around, because otherwise they're
Hmm.
gonna, if it's small enough, they're gonna eat it just themselves, or if it's big enough, they
Hmm.
might call on their partner, or potentially even, yeah, eat as much as they can and then go and regurgitate if there's pups. But I also haven't seen it, but I've just read about it prolifically in various scientific papers.
Yeah, also, I think it's a very good strategy. I think anything that didn't bury food to save it would possibly be foolish, especially the carnivores. If not, save it, save some for later. Who
Absolutely.
else we got? Bob from Kalamazoo. Good day, Kelly. And at Taylor. Afternoon. Jasmine 57 rabies. Um, Potentially. I'm not a vet. I wouldn't want to call it. I would be disinclined to give a diagnosis on anything I saw, and I would call a wildlife vet and get them to come. But maybe. Um,
Occasionally, Kelly,
okay.
there are vets that watch the show. So if any of you are out there, it would be great to, of course, have your feedback, and you can send it through on the chat, or just send it in a little bit later. And obviously, Kelly and I would also love to follow up and hear what the verdict was. We also know lots of wildlife vets, so perhaps it wouldn't be a bad thing sending it to them and hearing what their what their prognosis is.
No, absolutely. No, I agree. But very interesting behaviour, but such a shame. Okay, I think we've got another clip to have a little look at now.
That is a very interesting drinking technique.
How odd. I've never seen that before.
Me neither. And I feel like we have sat and watched a lot of different animals drink water, and I've definitely not seen a jackal. Do you know what I have seen? My dog does this sometimes when he drinks
Mm,
water.
I was thinking the same thing. I've seen domestic dogs do it. Um, I wouldn't have thought it was particularly. I mean, fortunately for our domestic dogs, they haven't normally got a problem with finding water, unlike these wild animals. I'm not sure how energy effective it would be.
That's actually a really good question. So, for those of you that aren't exactly familiar with how dogs drink, for an example, well, the differences between cats and dogs is that cats are definitely a lot more elegant with the way that they go about it. They lap the water with their tongue, and the tip of the tongue slightly curled back, and then a stream of water basically is pulled up, and they drink that way. Whereas the Canidae members typically use their tongues as a big spoon, a scoop. They also curve more of their tongue backwards, and then as they lap into the water, they bring it straight into their mouth, which is why it sort of sprays everywhere and can make quite a bit of a mess. However, and they obviously do that, and then it's a great way to drink water. But if you've ever seen a dog or a leopard and a lion or whatever wild dog, hyena, jackal drink water, they spend quite a bit of time drinking. In fact, it
Mm.
goes on for minutes. So that I reckon you're probably getting a bit more water in your mouth by just shoving your whole snout in and just biting at it and taking chunks. And really, you can't obviously have a chunk of water, but that's kind of what it looks like. So interesting.
Maybe. I think someone said they have seen this jackal drinking like that before. So maybe it's, I know sometimes giraffe have different drinking techniques, either the knees forward or the legs out. Maybe
Hmm.
it's discovered a more effective way of doing it. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Tim says, was it not trying to catch fish or frogs? Um, I don't think it was. It didn't look like a hunting action. I would have expected to see more sort of watching and pouncing, that sort of
Yeah.
thing, if it was hunting. Um, who knows? Maybe though.
Yeah, but I do agree with you, Kelly. It was kind of looking all over the show. It didn't seem to be fixated on anything
Mm.
really. So I also don't think it was necessarily eating anything off the surface of the water. Like I said, we see it in domestic dogs where they just go submerge themselves in water when they're having a good time and just sort of bite at it. In fact, I might even have a video of my dog doing that.
Are jackals usually solitary? Amber. It depends on what's happening, really. They're monogamous, so they do have they stay in pairs. They pair for life. I've often seen jackals running around on their own, but they're not solitary in the sense that leopards are.
Yeah, it could be a young individual dispersing, or it could just be one of the adults out on a territorial patrol because they don't necessarily always do it together. Then stopping for a bit of a drink. Yeah, so it could, like you said, it's very circumstantial as to what it kind of could be.
And zygote, no tongue or issues with the tongue, possibly. That could have been the case. Maybe we'll never know. But fascinating to watch that behaviour there. Okay, I think we've got one more clip coming up to show you now. Woohoo! I love watching animals' body language. I love it.
Absolutely. This is very much a dominant display going on right now. You can see how the jackal on the left has got its hackles raised, although it doesn't have really. Normally, when it's really aggressive behavior, they'll sort of, their tail and their backs will be higher than their heads. They'll sort of arch down a little bit more. And then obviously the one on the left is super submissive. You can see. Also, hackles are up though, but bending down, sort of mouthing, licking at the lips, all very submissive behavior. But it's difficult to tell, is it another individual that has passed through the territory, or is it a youngster, maybe of the same sex? Because I know there can be quite a bit of dominance between, say, the male, and then if he's got any offspring and some of them are young males, there'll be quite a bit of aggression, and there looks to be a significant size difference too.
Yeah, it's a smaller animal. It's definitely a smaller animal.
It's so fascinating. So
they look evil, don't they? With those glowing eyes and that biting mouth. Oh, I wouldn't want to bump into that.
Me neither. That would definitely be quite scary, especially when you're in complete darkness.
I just see someone said apparently lots of people believe the jackal in the previous clip has got a paralyzed tongue. That is definitely, it's a possibility. But
I think Tris, who is a vet, says, I believe this jackal has no tongue, no tongue or paralysis. It's interesting. Okay. Can you see it though? This is where I wish we could kind of zoom in. If it was only facing the other way, wouldn't that be much better? Then we could really see inside its mouth.
It almost looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, Tal, does that bottom jaw look smaller than usual?
No, I'm trying to look. Turn your head this way, Jackal.
It almost looks like its bottom jaw's slightly, I don't know, maybe I'm imagining it.
No, quite possible. I can't even speak.
Seems that people think that it could be an injury to the jaw, could have paralyzed the tongue. Yeah, very, very interesting. But no, I don't think that's not hunting. You see what I mean? That chin looks sort of
completely disproportionate to the top one, sort of underdeveloped.
So maybe it was it could be a birth defect.
Yeah, potentially.
It's amazing how animals adapt, though.
Yeah, okay, having a look. We wouldn't be very good at sort of surviving with that without some kind of medical help, or at least someone else assisting us in that process for the most part.
No, absolutely. I see Mary Moore said, I've seen brain injuries cause animals to seize and lose control of the body movements. I don't know much about it, but it could be a brain disorder. Absolutely. Yeah, it could be a brain disorder. It could be... It didn't look quite right for a spinal injury. It could have had a spinal injury. It could have been kicked by a giraffe. maybe we'll never know. Kim Hee, do jackals ever fight to the death? I've never seen jackals fight to the death. Lots of animals prefer not to. I don't know if you've ever seen a hardcore jackal fights, Taylor.
No, not at all. I have seen serious aggression towards other jackals around a carcass. That's been interesting. But like you say, I think for the most part, the sort of dominance display will I suppose suppress that aggression. And if they mean business, yeah, I've never seen it before. And I feel like they probably just run away before it gets to that kind of point. We obviously see like members of the Canidae family more like, domestic dogs and stuff, or animals that live in packs. And obviously jackals can form within their social structure. You can have adults, and then you can have the helpers, so the previous offspring from the year before helping raise the new pups. We don't really see them sort of mobbing and attacking each other in that sense. But yeah, we see it with domestic dogs, unfortunately, all the time, where they'll pack and end up killing an individual. But it very rarely resorts to that.
So we probably think no, Kimmy. Tim, so what is the social structure of black-backed jackals? I think, Taylor, you've just summed that up in a nutshell, really. Yeah, so family unit, helpers, male and female, and then everyone disperses. So that's the basic social structure of jackals. Tris the vet just joined, but I rewound, and this black-backed jackal is infected with distemper or rabies, in my honest opinion, or humble opinion. Yeah, I wouldn't. You would know more than both of us would, I think. So I'd be really interested to follow up, and if we can see if there is a diagnosis made on that jackal for future learning. Theo George 12, hello, George from New Jersey, here to give a listen. Hello, thanks for listening. Okay, I think we've got another clip to show you, again jackal related. Ooh, look at those ears. Oh.
Straight in.
I wonder what it's got. I actually watched for the first time a couple of years ago. I'd never seen it before. I saw a jackal in daylight, and it was doing exactly this. Dig, 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 dig. And I stopped and I watched, and it pulled out a huge scorpion. It was digging for a scorpion. It's the first time I'd ever seen that. So I wonder I don't know if this jackal's going to come out of this with anything in its mouth. Let's watch.
I think the possibilities are endless in this situation, because their diet is so varied. I mean, like you said, seeing a jackal pull out a scorpion, that's quite spectacular. For those of you that don't know, jackals literally eat anything and everything, including fruit. It's especially during during the drier times in South Africa, when there isn't many rodents, and perhaps they're relying on catching scrub hares and feeding on carcasses and that type of thing. They will eat various fruits, which is amazing. They're so successful in their own right because of their adaptability features.
And that's one of the things that makes have such wide ranges. Animals that the more stuff they can eat or survive on, the better they tend to do. You think about animals like your poor giant panda who just has bamboo, is a little bit limited. But it's things like that, and jackals, also leopards, very adaptable diets, makes them hugely successful. JJ, do jackals have territories? Yes, absolutely. I'm not, Taylor, do you know how big they are? I don't know how big they are off the top of my head without checking.
I also don't know off the top of my head, but I think it will depend. Again, it might vary on a number of different things. So I don't think there'll be a set value, because for example, in the Serengeti or the Mara ecosystems, they could potentially have smaller territories because there's so much food available. There's lots of rodent species. It's open grassland, where maybe in the Sabi Sand they're slightly bigger because maybe it's a bit more difficult to find food, or whatever the kind of case may be. So I think it's going to be very area specific. But I don't know. It's so different. In East Africa, you see jackals everywhere. Like around every corner you go, there are jackals. So I think that they're probably maybe a bit smaller than in the Sabi Sand. Maybe because of the vegetation being so dense, we just don't see as many, or it's not a suitable habitat. It's tricky to say. I've actually got a book open and I can't find anywhere here where they talk about, I just quickly was reading now about territories, and it doesn't specify in terms of a size. So I'm not
As so
actually.
many things, it depends: food availability, water availability, jackal density, large predator density. So that was a really long way of saying yes, they do have territories. Kim Hai, would they go for snakes? I don't see why not. I would imagine they would take snakes. I bet it's good protein, snakes. So I would have thought yes. Do you agree, Taylor?
Yeah, 100%. I think they'll
Yeah,
eat anything,
100%.
anything they can grab.
What's their best hunting skill? Chasing, hearing, etc. Well, it's not size and it's not power. I would imagine, even just watching that jackal hunt, then its ears were forward, listening. So I think they've probably got quite a good sense of. There we go. Look, and that's underground. It's listening to something underground there. So I would say their sense of hearing is pretty strong.
Absolutely. And their sense of smell, I think, is so important. Always people when they do that.
And they'll use different skills. I mean, they do hunt, they do chase things down, they hunt birds. I wouldn't have thought bird hunting was their best skill. Maybe leave that to the servals. But again, adaptability. That's the key to success, I think. There's a long message here from Tris Vsop. I was thinking a lot of this Koro jackal because we saw it many times and the way of drinking didn't change. So it somehow adapted to this condition. But thinking further, if it's a male, it can reproduce in the future. But if it's a female, their pups would die because they need to be stimulated by the mother licking in early life. That is a good point.
Yeah,
That is a
that's
very interesting point.
Yeah.
You've thought about it much better than we have. But yeah, that's a really, really good point, Tris. That's proper forward thinking. So the jackals we see on the cams, would they be the same ones mostly, JJ? What do you think, Taylor?
I think potentially, but we also have to take into consideration that quite often water holes are shared. Because not every jackal or every leopard or lion, for an example, whatever the pride or they're solitary, are going to have a nearby water source. So you might find that territories overlap at a common point. So yes, potentially, but also no in the same breath. That's why I love sort of animal behavior, is because there isn't any set answer. It's so variable depending on what set of circumstances it's under. Like you said, habitat type, there's just so many different things that play a role. And I feel like sometimes my guests actually get annoyed with me, especially people that don't know me. And I'm like, they just want a yes or no answer. And I'm like, but I can't give you one. I cannot. It's this or this, and that could happen and here and these kinds of things. And I think it's important to have these conversations because, Tris, your thinking is very different from mine, and Kelly, obviously, with your veterinary background, your science background. And I didn't even think of that in that very moment. So thank you very much.
No, for sure. I agree with you completely, Taylor. I'm actually studying animal behaviour at the moment. I'm coming to the end of a 2-year qualification. And I thought I was going to get all the answers. It's more companion animals, but it's mammalian brains. And I thought I was going to get all the answers. My tutors hardly ever give me any answers about anything. It's turned into a standing joke. We've got a WhatsApp chat group. And people say, what do you think about this? And one of the tutors just goes, well, it depends. Drives us mad. But that's the long and short of it. And the way Tris has thought about that there, again, it's a different thought process. And I'm sure if we all put our heads together, we'd think, oh, but maybe this. So it keeps us thinking. A codified striped and black-backed jackal mate. Physically, yes. Do they? No. I've never heard of it. Have you heard of it, Taylor?
No, and animals mating that are in the same genus is so interesting, and again, it's so complicated because it depends. Obviously, you can get, certain animals from the same genus that can mate with one another, and then they produce infertile offspring. And then other situations, you get animals that are in the same genus that can mate with each other and produce viable offspring. So it really just depends, and it's all about genetics. I'm not a geneticist, so off the top of my head, I couldn't run through the list of of those examples that I gave you, and I'm sure there's plenty more examples that you could kind of use, or variabilities. But Tris, since you're here, if you know, perhaps
please.
I mean, we can always, of course, all pop it into that wonderful search engine and have a look. But again, a lot of the books that we have as field guides, they don't go into detail necessarily about things like, that type of breeding. They don't have a list of, okay, that and that mates, can they have fertile offspring, or is it infertile, or can they just not reproduce at all? So it's, again, I'm really not certain, but a good one to have a look at.
I would say anatomically, logically speaking, yes, but nature's clever. Nature doesn't mix things up that aren't supposed to be mixed up, from what I've seen. There's, not so much with jackals, because obviously you can find them both in the same area, but like, people, that terrible thing of tigers and lions, that thing. Nature's put them on opposite sides of the world for a reason. But then obviously humans get involved and spoil things. So I would say anatomically, yes. Whether or not they would, probably not. They would probably be human intervention that would do that. Jasmine 57 saw a coyote the other day. It was nervous even though I was in my car. That's because they're smart. They've got a natural fear of humans. Lots of animals have, unless they've been around vehicles since a very young age, and that's what keeps them safe. So, and what that jackal from the start, it would be something like rabies. I know is known for when that behavior changes. If your coyote had started coming up and chewing your car, and you're in a very rural area, that's when it could be indicative that there's a problem. Okay, what's the time? Have we got time? We have time just to squeeze in one more clip. Taylor, I think you can probably have this one. I've never seen a striped hyena.
I've never seen a striped hyena either, and that's exactly what we're looking at. No, I've always wanted to. We tried to track one down in Old Pajeta, which is a conservancy in Kenya. Oh, but look at how interesting it is. Obviously, the black-backed jackal at the back, quite weary, curious, of course. Are you drinking, or what else is going on there? Is probably the thoughts going through the jackal's brain. And the striped hyena, not too perturbed, just sort of, again, just watching, warning, even though the hyena is not, acting aggressively towards that jackal, just it's simply turning back and making eye contact, as if to say to the jackal, hey, I'm watching you. Don't try anything funny.
But look how nicely they just get along. They, there's no animosity. They just do their thing. Nature's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I feel like black-backed jackal, just from what I've seen, tend to associate more with predators and, sort of follow them around. Quite often when you see lions on a kill, or even leopards on a kill, but more so I've seen with lions, you'll see jackals in the distance. Same thing when hyenas bring something down, there's jackals just lingering on the outskirts, hoping to maybe sneak in and grab something. Whereas side-striped jackals, I haven't seen it as often. And then golden jackals, I've also not seen it. They seem to be more elusive in comparison to the side strap and the blackback. But such a cool clip. I think, again, I don't know, I mean, I know, Kaylee, you're going to agree, the interspecies interactions is really what makes wildlife viewing so interesting. It's something that I always look for, and I'm always surprised every time I see an interaction. There's normally something just a little bit, different about that sighting.
I see there's a question here. Do side-striped and black-backed jackals get along at least? Probably. I've seen them in the same sort of rough vicinity. I'm sure if one of them tried to steal someone else's food, there'd be a scuffle. But nature's clever. They've got enough problems to worry about rather than bickering amongst themselves. So while they might not snuggle up together at night, everyone's very affable, exactly as that striped hyena, striped hyena, and The striped hyena. Who else have we got just before we round up? Thanks, Taylor and Kelly. This is great information. Woo-hoo, it's a pleasure. These clips, we don't get to see these clips before, so it's exciting for us to try and work through them while you're all watching. Karu, this may be a stupid question, but are coyotes related to jackals in some way? Yeah, they're all canids. They're all from the same. I can never get the genre. Is that your canid, Taylor?
His friends are arriving, so he's going to completely lose his mind just now.
That's very exciting. But no, they're all related. Our domestic dogs, jackals, coyotes, they're all canines. So yeah, they all sit in that same taxonomic bracket somewhere along the line. But I think that's all we've got time for this afternoon, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Taylor?
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Absolutely lovely to spend some time with you. And thank you all for joining. And we hope to see you all again, hopefully for next week. Happy 4th of July to all our American guests watching out there. And we hope to see you again soon.